Welcome to the channel and what will be the last video in this series for Empyrion Galactic Survival Alpha 10. If any of you have been following the channel, you'll be aware that in the last couple of videos we've been using the Alpha 10.6 experimental update, looking at the new CPU options but not actually playing with it enabled, so we could look at the stats and the changes, and also just getting familiar with the new HUD. There's also another change as part of that 10.6 experimental update is HV/SV stocking. And in the last video I started to talk about the way forward, that I was thinking of winding this series up and I was planning for the next series and what I wanted to do. Now that was based on the assumption that the 10.6 update would be in the experimental branch for at least another week, and then there would be a candidate release for 10.6, and then I would then move forward with a new campaign once that was come in. And the idea with that campaign would be to play with CPU enabled and just see if we can experiment with the ships. So that's exactly what I was planning, but unfortunately we seem to have been overtaken by events, because I was watching XCaliber's live stream. I didn't actually watch the live stream, I actually watched the video he's posted on his YouTube channel. I will put a link in the video description for any of you that want to take a look at it. And the conversation was very interesting, the way he was talking to devs and answering questions. And it was also interesting, it took me a little while to realize that he was actually using an Alpha 11 update to demonstrate various bits and pieces. And I kind of was a bit confused with that. And then right at the end of the video, literally in the last couple of minutes, XCaliber asked the dev about the release schedule, and the dev quite candidly turned around and said that the candidate release, that is the release that will go into the public stream, would be released on the Thursday of this week, which was actually going to be the 14th of November 2019 if you're watching this in the future. And he almost as an aside said that would be the Alpha 11 update. So what they've actually consciously done is decided that the CPU is so big a change in functionality that it should be a full release rather than just a 10.6 update. And in some ways I actually support that decision, because it creates a clear division between what we've been playing with Alpha 10 and now we're moving forward to Alpha 11 with the CPU enabled. And it also means that because we've now got a candidate release, it means that any of you who don't want to play with CPU on should now be able to load that candidate release, get a feel for the game, and play without CPU enabled officially on a new playthrough. Now, the other thing the developers said is that they are looking at a full release beginning next week on the Monday or Tuesday, depending if there's nothing really badly wrong with the candidate release. So if any of you are not really too sure about getting involved in the candidate release, wait a few days and then you will have a chance to play on Alpha 11. But it's also a warning that bear in mind, if you've got an existing playthrough, that sometime next week you are liable to be hit with the Alpha 11 update. Although I think what they're actually saying is that if you've got an existing playthrough, the CPU will not be enabled. That has kind of thrown all my plans into disarray. So what I want to do in this video is talk about the preparation. I'm not going to do any gameplay, so if you come for the gameplay, apologies for that. But I just want to get this sorted out in my own head, because when I actually loaded this video, I wasn't expecting to see the Alpha 11 candidate. What I was expecting was to do another video on the Alpha 10.6 update. So that's kind of thrown me in a little bit of a disarray. And what I will do is outline what I was originally intending to do, and I'm still half inclined to do this, because especially now that it's actually Alpha 11, that is that I want to have a go at the Project Eden scenario, because not only has it got some very interesting starts, but it's also got some very challenging planets which have been custom made and modded in. And what I really want to do is get out and play on some of those planets, experience the interest and the danger, because what they are talking about for what was now going to be Alpha 12 is multiple planetary systems. And I just wonder whether that's going to have a big impact on the Project Eden scenario. So I do really want to play the Project Eden and explore the planets. But at the same time, I've got a bit of a dilemma, and this comes back to what I was originally planning. That is that, yes, there's some really challenging starts with the Desolate Planet and the Cold Planet, and some of the medium level ones. The problem is the new update doesn't really change the initial survival phase of the game. There's no new really radical changes to that. So what I'm thinking is that rather than go for a more difficult start, is to go for maybe one of the easier starts, so that we can roll forward very quickly, get to the shipbuilding bit, start to play with CPU. Now, my original plan was to maybe build a couple of starter ships, download some ships from the workshop, and also based on some suggestions that you've put in the comment, is recycling the super toaster as ships that I can bring back in. But of course, what I'll have to do is go into creative mode and make them CPU compliant, or maybe we won't have them CPU compliant, and then see what actually happens with performance, because this is the type of thing I want to explore in the next update. I'm going to need to take a couple of days to think about it, and I'll be very interested. I mean, does that make any sense to you, that rather than go for the really hard start and from the scenario is get in, get rolling, get the ships going, get out, and then explore the planetary systems? So I think that's all I want to say about the update. And the other thing I want to show, and this still comes back to what I was saying, is if I go into the factory, what I've actually done is I've come into here and I've now uploaded the super toaster into as a blueprint. I had to call it a silver toaster because for some reason the game didn't like super toaster. I don't know if it thinks there. And what I've actually done is renamed the ship that I can't remember what this was called now. Actually, I can find out. Let me just have a quick look. Yeah, so you can see we've got the Nightshade here. So what I've actually done is I've renamed the Nightshade because I don't want to impinge on Spange's ship name, and I've called it the Silver Shade. And so the idea is that when we start the next Let's Play through, we'll probably bring the Silver Toaster back and the Silver Shade back as revised ships and get them in and carry on to develop them. And if I just show you the CPU rating for here, you can see at the moment to make the Super Toaster CPU compliant, I would have to make it up to a tier 2 ship. So I don't think that's going to be a big problem because that doesn't require any really advanced materials. It's the really funny stuff starts at tier 3, tier 4. And I think we'll just, if we go up and look at the Silver Shade, and I'm not sure why I've got a gun out. And if you look at the Silver Shade, and just in here, you can see this is actually tier 1, but what I'm thinking with the Silver Shade is maybe just tinkering around with it a little bit, and maybe making some space on it for a shield so that we can make it into we could say a combat ship. That's probably the best way to describe it. And the other thing I'm also thinking is I haven't uploaded the loot lifter up because I haven't really changed it that much. I'll get away from the thruster. Because on top of the fuel tanks. So what we could do is modify a little bit and then put in a shield generator, so that would probably take it over the top, and then we'll see what effect having an over the top CPU ship will be. So that's the type of plans I've got for the next playthrough, and I think that's all I really want to say. And we're just going to go up the front and have a nice view out over the planet down there. I mean, some of the external graphics in this game are getting really fantastic. I think this is where I'm going to leave it. Feel free to chuck in the comments of how you're going to deal with this upcoming release, which will probably be in a week's time, and how it's going to affect you and what restarts you're planning. So I'm open to suggestions with the Eden project starts, but I want to emphasize that I don't really want to get bogged down into the hard and very hard options, because what I don't want to do is spend 5-6 parts running around collecting resources to build a very basic ship to get up into space, and before we can actually start doing something. I would like to really progress the next Let's Play as quickly as possible onto ships, because that's where I want to get the focus, and of course the base, because in this series I haven't done a base. So what we'll probably be looking at is getting on a starter planet, getting a reasonable base up and running so we can look at the CPU relations to the bases, then start getting some good quality ships in. Because what I wouldn't mind having is a kind of utility fleet around the capital vessel as well. But that's all for the future. This is where I'm going to leave it. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting. And what I can say is hope you're going to enjoy the next update of Empyrion Galactic Survival. And until then, whatever you do, enjoy your gaming.